Alright, this is the tutorial how to use Microsoft Excel to do a line of best fit electronically. What you're going to have to do is open up Microsoft Excel, which is that program like that. Now you probably, if you have Citrix, it's going to be under your apps. If you don't have the Microsoft Excel app, you're going to have to search for it and get it onto your Citrix. My computer is not on Citrix, so I don't have to do that. But I would hit Microsoft Excel. And the program is going to open up. Now what Microsoft Excel is, as you can see, is just basically what's called a spreadsheet. There's different cells. Those cells have locations. Like this cell would be C2, and it even highlights it for you. And you can use that when you're using mathematical formulas to identify a cell, a number that's in a cell. You can input data. You can put input numbers in there. You can input letters. There's all kinds of nice things. This is a really good program to get to know how to use. I'm going to teach you how to use the equation portion of it. What you're going to do is you're going to want to type in your table. So title your table. For example, the x-axis we know was number of rubber bands straight from your sheet, and that was X. Now if you notice, this goes over a bunch of cells here. It's technically only located in cell A1, but it overlaps B1 and C1. So you're going to want to make A1 big enough to hold on to that entire phrase. And then in B1, you're going to want to type in your Y, which is jump in distance, or jump distance in centimeters. Jump distance in centimeters. You can use cm for centimeters, period. And then that is to remind yourself that it's Y. And again, let's widen by dragging right up next to the B that entire column. So, you see how these columns, you can highlight a whole column by even doing that, clicking on the actual letter. Or you can highlight a whole row by clicking on the row number, like that, when you're selecting stuff. Let's enter in our rubber bands. We know that we had 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, and if you got to 14, put 14 in. If you didn't, just don't use 14. You notice how this is aligned to, these numbers are aligned to the right side of the cell. So a way to center them would be to highlight those numbers with your mouse, go up just like in Microsoft Word, there's a center right on top. Boom, it'll center it right underneath there. Okay. Do the same thing for jump distance. Now enter in your group's data. So I'm just going to make that up. I'm going to say it's 25 for 2, 60 for 4, 6 is going to be 80, 8's going to be 110, 10's going to be 160, 12's going to be 200, and 14's going to be 245. But enter your data and do the same thing with those numbers too. Highlight them, just those cells, and center them. That way it kind of looks like a table. And you can actually make this look like a table even more by highlighting all the cells that have data in it, or labels. And if you go up to this icon up here, if you click on that arrow, there's different types of borders you can do. We want to do all borders. It'll encompass every single cell that you have highlighted, just like that. So there's your table. Okay? Why don't we make the title of each column boldface? So highlight each of those and hit bold, and that'll boldface the titles on top. So there's your table. Okay, at this point, now let's save this in your drive. So go to File, Save As. Okay? Go to your computer, go to your drive. My drive is here, the BM Berlin drive, your H drive. Okay, and pick a folder where you want to keep it. I'm just going to keep it here because I don't really have a folder for that in mind. And let's call it Barbie Data. Okay, and hit Save. Okay, now it will always go there, so all you have to do is hit the Save button, obviously, on top, and it'll keep saving. Okay, from here, we want to create our graph of this data. Okay, so you're going to want to highlight all of those cells. Okay, and you're going to want to go to Data, I believe. Where is it? Actually, go back to Home. Actually, it's not in the Home. It's actually under Insert. So go to the Insert tab, and we want to insert a scatter plot. which is right there. So you hit scatter plot, and you're going to want to choose the one with all points, just the points. Hit enter, and you should get a graph. Now notice it kind of titled it, you know, with different things. So actually, why don't we delete that? Okay, delete that graph, and let's just highlight the numbers. So just highlight the numbers, don't highlight the titles. Okay, same thing, go to Insert, Scatter Plot, do a scatter plot. So now it's just a template scatter plot. It's got no titles on the axes. Okay, so we'll actually have to add those, obviously. Okay, so let's put that right underneath here. Okay, let's double click on the graph. Okay, there's different things you can do. You can do different border colors, you can do solid lines, border styles, shadow it, glow effects, 3D formats, things like that. No, you know, I'm just going to leave mine the way it is. Just keep it nice and simple. Okay. Now also when you click on this, notice that the chart tools pops up on top here. Okay. We're going to want to choose the layout tab. Okay. And we're going to want to label our axes. So you're going to select axes, primary horizontal axis, that's your x-axis. Okay, and we want to show actually, sorry, that would be under axes titles. So axes titles, we want to title our x-axis, the horizontal title. The title will be below the axis. Click on that. Now a text box pops up, and you can move it around. Okay, so let's change it to what our x-axis represents. And if you look up above again, it's the number of rubber bands. Okay, there you go. Now again, you can move this and center it wherever you want. So if you want it nice and center, just pick it nice and center, just like that. Number of rubber bands right there. Okay, let's go back to the same thing. Let's click on the graph. Chart tools will pop up on top. We want to do the layout. Axes titles, let's do the vertical axis now, which is your x-axis or your y-axis. Let's do a vertical title so that it'll go up and down versus left and right. Okay, notice how this goes up and down. Let's title our axes. And again, it's kind of a neat concept that you could do that. You're going to want to delete all that. Okay, and our y-axis was jump distance in, let's do centimeters in parentheses. Just like that. And it kind of auto-formats it. Okay. Series 1 now, we don't really need that. So why don't we just title? Let's just get rid of that, because that really doesn't mean anything. So select it. Oh. And if you ever make a mistake, just hit Control-Z. It'll undo that. You're going to want to delete that. There we go. There it is. There's our graph. Okay, now we want to create the next thing. We want to get that trend line. So you select the graph again. The chart tools will pop out. We want to do layout. Okay, and you look here. Now you can add a trend line to the chart. So you click down. We want a linear trend line, a line. Hit enter on that. And there's your line of best fit right there, okay, for your data. After that, okay, now finally to get our equation of our trend line, you're going to want to double click on that trend line, or you can right click on the trend line and go to Format Trend Line. It's the same thing. And here's your options. We already chose linear. Okay, the trend line name is automatic. We don't need to name it. But what we do want to do is we want to get the equation of that line. So on the bottom, you check the box that says display equation on the chart. Okay, obviously you can do different things with your line if you want to add different colors, make them dotted, the different styles, shadows, the same thing as before. Close that out. And there it is. There is the equation of, in slope-intercept form, right here, of my trend line. Okay, what I want you to do then is below, type in that equation. So y equals is on top of the keyboard. 18.214. Notice how that is the slope because it's next to x, and the default is to round to the thousandth, 3 decimal places, minus 20. Okay, there's our equation. Okay, let's make this column say, let's say line of best fit equation. Right there. Okay, so that is everything. You're going to use this equation from Excel for your predictions on how many rubber bands you're going to need. Last thing you're going to do is save this again, make sure everything's saved. Okay? And then you are going to print this out to the copy machine. Make sure when you print that everything fits on one page. Okay? And actually an easy thing to do once you hit print, you see these dotted lines that shows what it's going to print. Let's actually make sure you put your name on it somewhere. So like I put my name here, Mr. Berlin. Again, save it. And again, go to print. Make sure down here that you only have one page, your name's on it. There's your data, there's your equation, everything is there. Okay, print it out and you'll have to turn it in.